Welcome to Smart English Coach Podcast.
Let's improve your fluency together, one real conversation at a time.
Let me ask you something. Have you ever been in a really heated situation? Someone is yelling at you, pressuring you, trying to get under your skin, and instead of losing it, you just stay completely calm. No raised voice, no panic, just quiet, steady composure. And the other person? They actually get more nervous, more frustrated, almost like your calm is bothering them.
Oh, I've seen that. And honestly, it's a little intimidating.
Right? And that's exactly what we're talking about today. Being so calm, it makes other people nervous. Not because you're cold or emotionless, but because your self-control is so powerful, it changes the energy in the room.
I love this topic, Michael, because I think a lot of people confuse being calm with being weak. Like, if you're not reacting, you must not care, right?
Exactly. And that's one of the biggest misunderstandings out there. So today, we're going to dig into what real calm actually looks like, why it's one of the most powerful things you can develop, and how to get there, even when life is throwing everything at you.
And of course, we're going to use natural, real English all the way through. So whether you're listening while commuting, cooking dinner, or just relaxing, welcome. You're in the right place.
Let's get into it. Okay, Sarah, so let's start here. A lot of people grow up thinking that if you react strongly, if you raise your voice, if you get angry, if you show that something got to you, that somehow means you're passionate, you care.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I used to believe that too, honestly. Like if I didn't get upset about something, maybe it meant it didn't matter to me.
And that's such a common belief. But here's what I've realized over time. Real passion doesn't need to be loud. Real confidence doesn't need to be aggressive. The most powerful people I've ever encountered, they don't raise their voice. They don't need to.
Why do you think that is?
Because they're not trying to prove anything. See, when someone loses their temper, what they're really communicating, whether they know it or not, is that they've run out of better tools. They don't know what else to do except get loud.
Oh, that's a really interesting way to look at it. So anger can actually be a sign of helplessness?
In many situations, yes. Not always. There's a place for righteous anger, for speaking up, for being direct and assertive. But when someone explodes because they feel out of control, that's not strength. That's just noise.
I like that. That's just noise. Can we keep that one?
Absolutely. Write that one down.
That's just noise. I feel like that applies to so many situations in life. Social media arguments, family dinners that go sideways.
Office meetings that go off the rails? Yeah, definitely.
So when someone stays calm in those moments, what does that actually signal to other people?
It signals mastery. It says, I've been in worse situations than this. I know who I am, I know what I want, and I'm not going to let you or this moment pull me off course. And people feel that. They sense it.
That's almost intimidating to be around, right? If you're trying to get someone riled up and they just look at you with this quiet, steady gaze, it can feel unsettling.
Exactly. Because here's what happens on a psychological level. When you stay calm while someone else is escalating, getting louder, more emotional, more dramatic, you create this contrast, and that contrast is powerful. Your calm becomes almost like a mirror. They start seeing their own behavior reflected back at them.
And sometimes they don't like what they see.
Precisely. Their own chaos gets exposed by your stillness.
Okay, so let's be honest here, because I think some people hear be calm and they think just don't react, shut down, go blank. Is that really what we're talking about?
No, and this is really important. There's a huge difference between being calm and being checked out. Real calm is not absence, it's presence. Full, total, grounded presence.
Ooh, say that again.
Real calm is not absence, it's presence. When you're truly calm, you're actually more aware. You're paying attention. You're thinking clearly. You're choosing your words intentionally. You're in the moment, not floating above it.
That's such a good distinction, because I've definitely met people who seem calm on the surface, but they've actually just completely shut down, like they've gone emotionally cold.
And that's a different thing entirely. That's called detachment. And in its extreme form, it can actually be a defense mechanism or even a sign of trauma. Real calm doesn't mean you stop feeling. It means you feel everything, but you're not ruled by it.
Right. You feel the anger, the frustration, the pressure, but you choose what to do with it.
You are the driver of the car, not the passenger. You decide how fast to go, when to brake, when to change lanes.
I love that metaphor. Okay, so practically speaking, what does calm look like in a real situation? Give me an example.
Sure. Let's say you're at work. Your boss comes in absolutely fired up. Maybe a client complained, maybe a deadline was missed, and he starts laying into you in front of your colleagues. Loud, accusatory, slightly out of line.
Oh, I'm already stressed just imagining that.
Most people in that moment feel a surge of adrenaline. Their heart starts racing, their face flushes. They either want to fight back or completely freeze up.
Yeah, flight or fight mode.
Exactly. But the calm person, they take one quiet breath. They let the storm pass for 2 or 3 seconds. And then they respond, not react, with something like, I understand you're frustrated. Let me walk you through what happened.
Just like that?
Just like that. No defensiveness, no matching the energy, no drama. And you know what's interesting? That response almost always disarms the situation.
Because you're not giving them what they expected.
Right. They came in looking for a fight, and you handed them a conversation. That takes real skill.
And real practice, I imagine.
Absolutely. Nobody is born calm. This is something you build through experience, through self-awareness, through deciding again and again to choose a different response than the automatic one.
All right, let's get into the juicy part. Why does someone being calm actually make other people nervous?
I knew you would love this part.
It sounds almost counterintuitive. Like, surely a calm person should make everyone around them feel more relaxed.
You'd think so, but here's the thing. When people are escalating, getting emotional, getting dramatic, they often need the other person to match that energy. It's like a dance. If you push, you expect the other person to push back.
It validates what they're doing.
Exactly. It gives them permission to keep going. But when you stay calm, when you don't take the bait, it disrupts the whole dynamic. They expected a reaction, and they got stillness. That's disorienting.
Like throwing a punch and hitting nothing.
Perfect analogy. They've put out all this emotional energy, and it just lands nowhere. And that silence, that stillness, it makes them second-guess themselves. Am I being unreasonable? Am I overreacting? Why isn't this person rattled?
So it actually makes them feel exposed.
Yes, and people don't like feeling exposed. It makes them uncomfortable. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes, that discomfort comes across as them being nervous around you.
Okay, so this is fascinating. It's almost like calm is a form of power.
It absolutely is. And throughout history, great leaders, great negotiators, great thinkers, they've all understood this. The person who can stay still in chaos is the one who has the most influence over it.
You know who comes to mind? Abraham Lincoln. I've read that even in the middle of the Civil War, with everything falling apart, people described him as strangely calm, like almost eerily composed.
That's a great example. And that composure wasn't because he didn't care. He cared deeply, but he understood that panic is contagious, and so is calm. And if you're a leader or just someone who wants to influence a situation, you choose what to spread.
Calm is contagious. I like that.
It really is. Walk into a room filled with anxious, stressed people, and if one person is genuinely, deeply calm, you can almost feel the energy shift. Here's something I want to talk about, Sarah, because I think it's important. Real, deep calm, the kind that other people feel. It's not something you find in a book or a motivational video. It tends to come from experience.
You mean going through hard things?
Exactly. The people who are the calmest in a crisis are usually the people who've already been through their own crises. They've already faced the worst, and they survived.
There's something almost liberating about that, isn't there? Once you've been through something really difficult, once you've hit rock bottom and climbed back up, smaller things just don't shake you the same way.
You develop what I'd call a reference point. You've been through the fire. So when someone comes at you with something smaller, a heated conversation, a frustrating situation, a difficult person, part of your mind quietly goes, I've handled worse than this.
That's such a calm-inducing thought.
It really is. And I think that's why young people sometimes struggle with staying calm. Not because they're less capable, but because they haven't built that reference point yet. They haven't been tested enough to know how resilient they actually are.
So experience builds trust in yourself.
Beautifully put. Yes, experience builds trust in yourself, and that trust is the foundation of real calm. You're not scared of the situation because you trust that you can handle it, whatever it is.
Michael, has there been a moment in your life where you had to dig deep for that kind of calm?
Yeah, there have been a few. One that comes to mind. I was going through a really difficult professional transition a few years ago. A project I'd put everything into fell apart almost overnight. I lost collaborators, I lost momentum, and for a moment I thought I'd lost my direction entirely.
That sounds really tough.
It was. And I remember someone very close to me asking how I was dealing with it. And I said, I'm not happy about it, but I'm not panicking. And she looked at me like I had two heads.
Like, how are you not falling apart right now?
Exactly. But the truth was, I'd already been through something harder earlier in my life, and I'd come out the other side. So some part of me just knew, this too shall pass. I'll figure it out.
This too shall pass. That's one of those phrases that sounds simple, but it's actually incredibly powerful when you really believe it.
When you've lived it, it becomes a truth rather than a platitude.
You know, I just want to say, if you're listening to this and you're finding it useful, we genuinely love it if you hit that subscribe button. We put a lot of care into every single episode, and it helps us know that these conversations are making a difference for your English journey.
And leave us a comment. Tell us, have you ever been in a situation where your calm surprised even you? We want to hear your stories.
Okay, back to it, because we're not done yet. All right, so we've talked about what calm is, why it's powerful, and how experience builds it. But what about the practical side? For someone who is naturally reactive, maybe quick-tempered or easily overwhelmed, where do they even start?
Great question. And I want to be real here. Becoming calmer is not a one-day project. It's a practice, like going to the gym. You don't lift weights once and walk out with muscles. You show up again and again.
So what does that practice actually look like?
Let me give you a few things that I think are genuinely useful, and I'll try to use natural English expressions along the way, so we're keeping this useful for learning too.
Perfect.
The first one is, pause before you respond. Not a long pause, just a breath. Just 1 or 2 seconds of space between the trigger and your response. And that tiny window, you go from reacting to choosing.
That sounds so simple.
It is simple, but it's not easy, especially when someone is pushing your buttons, which, by the way, is a great English expression. To push someone's buttons means to deliberately do or say something you know will annoy or provoke them.
Right, like she knew exactly which buttons to push, meaning she knew exactly what would get to him.
Exactly. And when someone is pushing your buttons, the instinct is to react immediately. The practice is to pause, even if it's just long enough to think, do I want to respond right now or wait until I'm calmer?
That one thing could probably save a lot of relationships, a lot of arguments.
A lot of late-night messages that people regret sending in the morning.
Oh, absolutely. We've all been there.
The second thing is, widen your perspective. When you're in the middle of something intense, it feels enormous. It feels like the most important thing in the world right now. But if you mentally step back and ask yourself, will this matter in 5 years, in 1 year, even in 1 month? The answer is usually no.
And that changes the emotional weight of it immediately.
Almost instantly. It's like zooming out on a map. What looked enormous at street level suddenly becomes small from above.
I use that one a lot, actually. When I catch myself getting really worked up about something, I'll literally say to myself, Sarah, is this a 5-year problem or a 5-minute feeling?
That's brilliant. A 5-year problem or a 5-minute feeling. Can I borrow that?
Go for it.
The third thing, and this one might surprise people, is get comfortable with silence. Most people panic in silence. In a conversation, in a meeting, in a confrontation, if there's a pause, they rush to fill it. And that rush, it costs them composure.
Because you say things you didn't mean to say, right? You overshare, you backtrack, you apologize when you didn't need to.
Exactly. But when you're comfortable with silence, when you can sit in that pause without flinching, you immediately seem more confident, more in control, more credible. People start wondering what you're thinking, which gives you power.
Silence as a tool, not silence as awkwardness.
Exactly. There's a great expression in English. The loudest person in the room is rarely the most powerful one. The person who says less, but says it with conviction, often carries more weight.
That's so true. I've been in meetings where the quietest person speaks once and everyone turns to listen.
Because they've earned it. They haven't filled the room with noise. So when they speak, it means something.
Let's bring this into everyday life, because I think we've been talking a little abstractly. What does calm actually look like in relationships, with partners, friends, family?
Oh, this is where it gets real.
Because relationships are where we're most uncalm, aren't they?
Yes, ironically. The people we love the most are the ones who can unhinge us the fastest.
Because they know us. They know exactly what to say.
And we care about what they think, so the stakes feel higher. It's much easier to stay calm with a stranger than with someone you love.
So, how does calm work in a relationship argument? Because sometimes you need to express emotion. You can't just go blank.
Absolutely. And this is where I want to make a really important distinction. Calm does not mean suppressing your feelings. It doesn't mean pretending everything is fine when it's not. It means you express your feelings from a place of stability rather than explosion.
So instead of "you always do this and it drives me crazy," which, let's be honest, we've all said, it's more like, "when this happens, I feel frustrated and I'd like to talk about it."
That's it. Same feeling, totally different delivery. One closes the conversation down, the other opens it up. One puts the other person on the defensive, the other invites them into a solution.
And the calm one actually works better.
In almost every case. Because here's the thing, when you yell, the other person stops hearing your words and starts managing your energy. They're not thinking about what you're saying. They're thinking about how to respond to the emotional storm.
They get defensive.
They put up walls. But if you come in calm, voice steady, tone measured, they can actually hear you. And that's the whole point, right? You want to be heard.
That's such practical advice. Come in calm if you want to be heard.
Write that one down too.
I'm filling up a notebook here.
All right, we've covered a lot of ground today. Let's take a moment to highlight some of the key English expressions and phrases we've used naturally throughout the conversation. This is what we call the word tour.
I love this part.
First, to keep your cool. This is a very common English idiom. It means to stay calm in a stressful situation. She really kept her cool during the interview, even though the questions were tough.
And the opposite?
To lose your cool, or to lose it, which means to suddenly get very upset or angry. He lost his cool when his flight was canceled for the 3rd time.
Understandable.
Very. Next one, to take the bait. If someone is trying to provoke you and you respond emotionally, you've taken the bait. Don't take the bait. That's exactly what they want.
Like a fish taking bait on a fishing hook.
Exactly. They've set a trap and you either fall into it or you don't.
I love that one. It makes the situation so clear.
Next, to push someone's buttons. We talked about this one. It means to intentionally say or do something that you know will irritate or provoke someone. She knew exactly how to push his buttons.
Then we had to get under someone's skin. That's similar, right?
Very similar. To get under someone's skin means to really bother or annoy someone in a deep way, sometimes without even trying. I don't know why his comments get under my skin so much. I shouldn't let it bother me.
Yeah, some people just have a way of doing that, don't they?
They do. And the calm person learns to let that slide. Which brings me to the next one, to let something slide. It means to deliberately ignore something or not react to it. I could tell she was trying to start something, but I decided to let it slide.
Very useful in daily life.
Then we had "this too shall pass," which is a classic phrase meaning that whatever difficult situation you're in, it won't last forever. It will get better.
Such a comforting thought.
And finally, composure. This is a noun that means calmness and self-control. She maintained her composure throughout the difficult meeting. You can also say someone is composed, as in, he was remarkably composed for someone under that much pressure.
Love all of these. These are such real, natural expressions.
Michael, before we wrap up, I want to ask you something a little deeper. Do you think that being calm, truly, deeply calm, is something that makes life better? Like beyond strategy, beyond power dynamics, does it actually make you happier?
That's a really beautiful question. And yes, I genuinely believe it does. Because so much of our suffering, not all of it, but a lot of it, comes from our reaction to things, not the things themselves.
The event isn't the problem. It's how we interpret and respond to the event.
Exactly. The traffic jam isn't the problem. Your fury at the traffic jam is the problem. The rude comment isn't the problem. The way it loops in your head for 3 days is the problem.
And calm gives you a kind of inner space, so those things can happen around you without happening to you.
That's poetic. I love that. Things happen around you without happening to you. That's such a good way to put it.
And I think it also protects your energy, because emotional reactions are exhausting, right? If you're constantly in fight or flight mode over small things, you're burning through energy that you could be using for things that actually matter.
100%. Think of your emotional energy like a phone battery. Every reaction, every outburst, every spiral costs charge. And calm is what recharges you. When you're calm, you're running efficiently. When you're constantly reactive, you're always at 5%.
And you know what happens when your phone is at 5%.
Nothing good. You start making bad decisions.
You do. You do things you regret because your resources are depleted.
And this is why rest, sleep, mindfulness, and self-awareness aren't just nice-to-have things. They're the foundation of being able to stay calm when life gets hard. You can't pour from an empty cup.
You can't pour from an empty cup. That's another good one.
Okay, so we've been doing all the talking. Now it's your turn, listener. We have some questions for you, and we genuinely want you to think about these. Maybe even pause the episode and talk to yourself in English. Practice your speaking by answering out loud.
Here's question 1. Think of a time when you stayed calm in a difficult situation. What helped you? How did it feel afterward?
Question 2. Is there a person in your life who has great composure, someone who stays calm no matter what? What do you admire about them?
Question 3. Which of today's expressions do you want to add to your English vocabulary? Try using it in a sentence right now.
And our big question for the comments section, we really want to hear from you on this one.
Do you think being calm is something you're born with, or is it something life teaches you the hard way?
Tell us in the comments. We read every single one.
All right, we are wrapping up today. And I just want to say, if you take one thing from this conversation, let it be this. Calm is not weakness. It is not indifference. It is one of the most sophisticated, powerful, and deeply human qualities you can develop.
And it's available to everyone. It doesn't require money or talent or luck. It requires awareness and practice, and the decision, again and again, to choose stillness over noise.
Be the calm in someone else's storm, and notice what happens.
Thank you so much for spending this time with us. If this episode added something to your day, your English, your mindset, or just your mood, please share it with someone who might need it.
Hit subscribe if you haven't already. New episodes every week. Real conversations, real English, real life.
We'll see you in the next one. Until then, stay curious, keep practicing, and be the kind of calm that makes people stop and wonder.
Take care, everyone.